So first of all, thank you very much, Bradley, giving us the time, your precious time. I know you are traveling a lot these days to speaking at various events. So first thing that we would like to know about is your experience with Salesforce.
Yeah, so I've been in the Salesforce world here for about 11 years, ever since I finished going to, college. And I started as a junior Salesforce administrator, had no idea what I was doing. I was then moved into a junior consulting role about a year and a half later. I started consulting. And from there, I really started to learn the ropes and take on the challenge of learning a lot of different varieties of needs for different companies using Salesforce, different tools like CPQ, and really getting more well-versed in Salesforce as a complete platform rather than just one tool for one company. And that's when things really started clicking for me. It didn't get easy, but it certainly got easier. Then I ended up moving into freelance consulting when my daughter was born. So I was in standard consulting with, big consulting firms for about 4 years. And then when my daughter was born, I decided I would like to work part-time and started working 20-hour weeks for my own company. And I've done that now for the last 5 or 6 years. And also just about a year or two ago, started a company called Talent Stacker, where we help individuals land their first Salesforce jobs and then also help them understand the world of freelancing.
Quite everyone's journey.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
when I started my job, I also had no clue what Salesforce is and how to do that. Statement you started working as a freelancing when your daughter was born. I think that was quite a game-changing moment for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. Right. I mean, like any big decision, it's scary, but I was in a position to at least try it. And I figured at the time I had about 5 years total experience. And if it didn't work out, I could just go back to work at a consulting company. So I thought, let me give this a shot and see if I can make it happen.
Taking a risk is always a good move, as per me. Like if you're not taking risks, you are definitely going to sometimes regret on your decisions, like you haven't take that risk. The very first question that we have for the topic, which is what are the key skills that a company is looking for any candidate? That might be a fresher, or they are working on some other stream, they wanted to change their job to the Salesforce environment, Salesforce.
Yeah, I'll say that if you're looking to transition into a Salesforce career, communication, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but your communication skills are going to be likely more important than your technical skills. And that confuses a lot of people. They think, well, no way. Like, I need a handful of certifications. I need to prove that I know how to use Salesforce. And that is true. You do need to know how to use Salesforce. I would think 1 or 2 certifications is plenty to be able to talk the talk and tell people about, flows and process builders and what Salesforce is and how the platform works and some of those simpler concepts, security, and things like that. But really what a lot of people fall really short on is their communication. You're going to have to network with individuals, which is either written or verbal communication. You're going to have to build a resume and your personal brand on LinkedIn, which is another form of written communication. And then you're going to have to show up for interviews, which is obviously a lot of verbal communication in a high pressure environment. So really a lot of the aspects of landing a job are your communication skills. So you need to get comfortable in these sort of anxious or nervous environments when someone's asking you questions that you may or may not know the answer to. You need to be comfortable with that. You need to be prepared to guide those conversations and talk about topics you want to talk about. And all of that has to do with your ability to feel comfortable, even though you are squirming in your chair and your blood pressure is super high. And even though all those things are going on, you need to get comfortable communicating very effectively to make sure that people understand your value.
I was also with the different set of peoples where we thought of having the technical skill is much more important than having the communication skills. But you said it correctly, because when I was attending my very first interview, I completely poured down the waters on my cert, and that was a very embarrassing moment for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we have to be careful about that, because keep in mind that the person interviewing you, they actually want to hire you, because they would like for the interview process to be over. They don't want to sit through another week of interviews next week. They would like for you to be the right fit. And on top of that, they're really looking for someone they're going to work with 40 plus hours a week. So you have to keep in mind that you could be the most technically skilled person in the world, but if you don't seem like the type of person that would be reasonable to work with 40 plus hours a week, then you may get overlooked simply because you need to make a human connection, and you need to make someone feel like they would like to work with you as a person as much as they would like to work with you as a skilled technical professional.
Yeah, so there has to be some sort of connection between interviewer and you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So the more you can have a conversation, just chat and talk to somebody and make it feel comfortable, you're going to establish more connections like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that was quite brilliant, I'll say. And I believe definitely Panther Army and many people are going to get help on that. And the next question that we have is, you might have got it multiple times, which is how to start with Salesforce.
Yeah, so I'll walk through this a little bit, and then I'll tell you how I've sort of consolidated this. So really, if you want to get started with Salesforce, and you may have been a stay-at-home parent, you may be coming from a different background, maybe you're fresh out of college or even just high school or whatnot. You may be coming back into the workforce from the military or anywhere. It really doesn't matter. You can get started with Salesforce no matter where you are coming from, but you have to have some guidance, right? So where do I get started? So one certification is really the baseline. And so I typically advise the admin certification. And the reason for this is because it gives you a foundational understanding of Salesforce. And it's also typically the easiest certification for people who don't quite understand Salesforce yet to be able to start to understand it and actually pass a certification test. Like some people want to be developers, and so they might go for the developer certification first. But most people who are transferring from an alternate background, maybe they come from a completely different world that's not tech at all, it's going to be really difficult to get that developer certification not having any knowledge of developing or Salesforce. So usually I say, hey, get the admin certification first. And really at the core, people are like, well, how do I do that? And it's, my quick advice is always, there's a trail on Trailhead. So make sure you get on Trailhead, and there is a trail called preparing for your admin certification. And you want to make sure you cover every single step of that. Don't rush through it. Make sure you understand it. It's going to take time, but dedicate maybe 8 to 10 hours a week at a minimum. And that'll help you stay consistent and keep the things fresh in your mind. And then you might want to go to Focus on Force. And the purpose of this is to get practice exams. And Focus on Force has these. I know Salesforce Ben has some of these. And there are a few different places. You can Google Salesforce practice exams, but people do love Focus on Force. And this is a way for you to practice sets of 60 questions, just like the real exam, prior to taking it, to make sure you're not, paying to go take the test and not at all prepared. So that's where I would start certification wise. Now, the other place you need to go is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is sort of your online professional profile. If you're not using LinkedIn, if you don't have your profile photo up and your background image, in place, and you don't have your about section and all your experience and skills filled out, you need to go do that. And yes, it will take a couple hours to get it all set up the first time. But after that, it pretty much works for itself. And without it, it's going to be pretty difficult to land jobs and network effectively if you don't have a presence on LinkedIn. So those are probably the two first things I would be doing to get started. And then, of course, you're going to want to look for some volunteer hands-on experience, and we can talk about how to do that. And from there, I think you're probably in pretty good shape. If you have a certification, you've got your LinkedIn locked down, and you're getting some hands-on experience through volunteer projects, you're putting yourself in a really good position to land that first job.
So most of the next question is most of the people are basically, as Salesforce is in boom these days, the industry of Salesforce is pretty much high. So most of the people are moving to Salesforce. Some of the people are aspirant for some other government jobs. They are trying to get into some different kind of jobs. Now they wanted to get into Salesforce, and they have career gaps like approx 3 to 4 years, how they can cover that and how they can manage it. Because these days I have seen, if you say I have a career gap, companies are definitely going to drop your resume and then they're not going to call you. So how these kind of people, how can they can get into Salesforce?
Yeah, I think it comes back to a little bit about what we talked about earlier, and that's volunteering for that real world experience. And again, this is another place where people attempt to cheat, right? They'll just add things to their resume that don't exist. But once again, you're going to be in a position where you owe your entire career or your job to lies and deceitfulness. So I don't think that's going to help you get too far in the grand scheme of things. Now, so what I would recommend is volunteering, and it can be a little bit difficult to find volunteer projects if you don't know what you're doing. So I would focus in on tools like Taproot, Volunteer Match, and Catch a Fire. So these are 3 tools, and you can look them up, but you can log in. You can do virtual volunteer projects from anywhere in the world, and you can help companies globally to implement Salesforce for their nonprofits. And this is a great way to get Salesforce experience. And of course, you're not going to get paid to do it, but it looks great on a resume. And this is a way that you can fill that gap, because a lot of the people you're competing with have no Salesforce experience at all. Sure, maybe they had a job the last couple of years that they're transferring out of, but they have no Salesforce experience. And what separates you is that you may have a career gap of 3 or 4 years, but you actually have hands-on Salesforce experience here in the last few months. And as long as you can convey that value, and this is why when I talk about preparing for interviews, you have to come into an interview confident. And when they say, tell me about this career gap, you can say, yeah, I was taking care of my kids. My kids were born. I wanted to make sure that they had, a quality childhood development and that I was there for them, because I put passion into everything that I do, whether it's having kids or being a Salesforce professional. I give it 100%. I did that phase of my life. I'm now ready to give 100% to Salesforce. In the last 3 months, I've been able to get my Salesforce admin certification. I've been able to volunteer with these, 2 companies, and this is how I was able to implement Salesforce for them. And now I'm ready to leverage the skills that I've honed and make sure that your business is using Salesforce effectively. And this is what I can bring to the table. And so you can take that career gap. And yes, if you come in there sounding scared or, just kind of hiding from the questions, then yeah, that career gap is going to stand out. It's going to look like you need to polish yourself professionally. But if you come in talking with strength about the value you do have, because we all have value, so you have to find it and talk about it. That's going to be the key to making people realize, okay, this person may have a gap, but you know what? They look like they're ready to take the reins and get this thing done. So let's give them a shot. Yep. And you're not, anytime you're interviewing, especially as a beginner, you are going to be told no more often than you are going to be told yes. So if you're expecting to get an offer every other interview, it's not going to happen. But the good news is you only need one offer. You could interview 10 or 20 times. You just need one company to say yes. You don't need half of them to say yes.
Yep, I think volunteering for nonprofit projects is definitely going to help the people. And one thing that I have got here is it is all about bringing the value to the company. What sort of value you are coming with you, and how company is going to get benefit from you. Is Trailhead is the best place to get started, or it is the best place to learn Salesforce? What are all other resources that a beginner can start with?
Yeah, so I would say Trailhead is probably the best place to learn Salesforce, but it's not the only place. I would say that you need to be aware of Trailhead. You need to be comfortable on Trailhead, because you're going to utilize it to learn Salesforce topics for the rest of your career. It's not just about getting your first job. For the rest of your career, if new functionality comes out, the first place you're going to find, training on that is Salesforce. So, or Trailhead, I guess I should say. So Salesforce's training platform. So Trailhead is a really good resource, and it's completely free. And you should definitely utilize it, especially when getting your Salesforce certifications. Now, a lot of people will say, Udemy is a good resource, or just going on YouTube or Googling it could be a good resource. And there are good resources out there, but you have to be careful, because just because somebody has a platform and they talk about these topics doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. So just be careful about that, myself included. You're going to want to make sure if you watch my content and you question it and you're not sure that's true, do your own research. Now, I would say that all my stuff's true, but do your own research. You don't have to trust me. You can go vet it yourself and make sure you're getting quality information. And you should do that when you're learning from really any source outside of Salesforce itself.
Yep, I think that is what I also suggest to most of the people who come to me with this question. So Trailhead is definitely the best resource that you can start, but that is not the only one. There are plenty number of other resources. Even if you talk about Salesforce, they have given the Salesforce documentation and help articles. Personally, I prefer Salesforce documentation and then article and then go to the Trailhead, because that is what, but most of the people what say that they hate reading, and Trailhead is having a lot of theory content. For those people, you definitely have to spend the time to understand what is there, and because not everything can be recorded over a video and you cannot watch like a movie. Try to get your real life problems implemented inside Salesforce. Like if you say, like if you are a person who wants to track your expenses, you can try to build a application on top of Salesforce to track the expenses. Not only, you can also track your family's expenses. You can also try to have some, like if I say it is a very daily use, you go to the market, buy some vegetables, you can also sort of build an application on that part. So definitely there are many other resources where you can get, and if you don't want to think, Trailhead is for you. You can just go there and you can find the projects. The next thing is, which is most of the professionals, including me, thought of when I was in our early stage of our career, how to clear the basic concepts of basically programming languages. Because when we go to the interview as a fresher, most of the time they ask some logical questions, some reasoning questions, and there are some very famous programs that every interviewer might ask, like Fibonacci series, palindrome string, and reversing the string or replacing the vowels. So how they can brush up their concept, and again how they can boost their confidence that they can prove the same to the interviewer, like they are bringing some value to their table.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult, and this is a sort of a developer specific question, right? Because on my side, on the administrative or analyst side, we might get some questions about agile methodologies, maybe in a very, specific interview with a consulting company. They might ask about like waterfall or agile methodologies for an analyst. For an administrator, typically they're asking you to describe, maybe Salesforce security methodologies and things like that. How does all the security interplay within Salesforce? And they might give you some scenario-based questions. So these would be, some of these specific to development are not as easy to find on Trailhead, or they may be completely non-existent on a platform like Trailhead. But I will say that anytime you're getting a question that you're uncomfortable with, there is room to, if you practice your interviewing properly, and I don't just mean looking at questions and then coming up with an answer and sounding like a robot. I mean, if you practice properly, you can get a question that says, hey, tell me about this particular theory in development. And you may not feel comfortable with that. And you can say, that's something I've been looking at. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% comfortable with that theory yet, but it's something I'm definitely working on. But something similar to that I've really had a lot of success with is, and now move into a conversation about your strengths. It could be anything. It could be another theory that you feel very comfortable with. So make sure that, you're going to fall flat on that question if you're not prepared for it. But that doesn't have to make you look bad. You can say, you know what, I don't know that, but I really know this really, really well. So make sure they know, like, just because I don't know that doesn't mean I don't know anything. I don't know that, but I do have a lot of value and I know an incredible amount. And if you can prove that you have incredible value in another area, then that typically shows that you're able to learn other concepts thoroughly if you can prove that you've understood other concepts.
So I think the next question is pretty much about around self-branding. So how one can develop self-brand, even if they are a fresher, how they can develop a self-brand so that they can attract the companies and they can easily put the value, saying that this is my brand and this is what value I'm bringing with me.
Yeah, personal branding is what I call it, and it's tremendously important. If you go into applying for jobs and trying to get interviews and hoping to get offers and you don't have personal branding, you're going to struggle much more than you need to. And so let's talk about what is it? Like what even are we talking about here with this type of branding? So what this is, it's typically your online presence. And LinkedIn has made it really easy to create an online presence. You can also use, you could create a blog, you could create a YouTube channel. There are other ways to do that. You could even have social media platforms like, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and have those sort of branded as you as a Salesforce professional instead of you as a, just your day in the life individual. So anytime you can take social media and turn that into a professional sort of profile for yourself, that can be beneficial. Now, I focus on LinkedIn for the most part. And the great thing about it is I can give you all my professional experience. I can tell you a little bit about myself. You can see other people, basically recommending me for skills that I have. You can have people actually writing letters of recommendation on LinkedIn. You have featured content. So if you really enjoy this video and you say, hey, that's amazing, I really want to recommend that to other people, you can put that in your featured content. And it shows people that you lean on other resources and that you're aware of people out there who are guiding you towards an end result. And you're always going to have resources from people who have been doing what you're wanting to do for longer. And if you're not leaning on those people, then you're just giving yourself a disadvantage. So it's just showing that this is me and this is how I use my resources and the skills that I already have to continually become a better professional. Now on LinkedIn, you can also write your own articles. You can write posts, you can connect with people, you can share other individuals' content. And these are all great ways to get attention from people in the Salesforce space. So if you come onto my profile and you were to like my post or comment on a post or share the information and say, Brad's so smart, he knows all about this topic, and share that, I like that, right? So anytime you can make other people like you, then there's a chance that they are more willing to help you get an interview or help you with your resume or give you some tips on your LinkedIn profile. Because you've shown that, hey, I like your stuff. I enjoy reading your content. I find value in what you do. Do you mind helping me out? Because I really look to you as an advisor. And those are people that I'm much more willing to say yes to than the people who come along and say, hey, can you get me a job? And it's like, no, actually, I can't. I'm willing to help you with your personal brand, but I can't just get you a job,
Yeah, I think that's true, because most of the time when people say the words that you have said to me, I definitely am to help out there. The next question that is, I think this is, I'm not sure it's quite, I'll say that famous question these days. What should be the salary bracket for the for the freshers?
Oh man, that is really tough. So this depends on a lot of different things. So for the most part, it depends on your locale, right? So this is Salesforce is a global market. And that means that you can work as a Salesforce professional from an island in Antarctica to, the US or North America or Asia or Europe. It really doesn't matter where you are. You can be a Salesforce professional, but the going rates are typically dictated by your local markets. Now, I work with a lot of people from the United States, Canada, and Australia. And the reason for that is because those are some of the most high pay markets in the world. Those rates typically for starters, which is mind boggling to me, are somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 for beginners. And from our memberships, we've seen, I think the average right now is $72,000 for an entry level Salesforce professional, which is, to me is mind blowing. And we've even seen people land jobs at over $100,000 in their first job. And I wasn't making that kind of money until I was 5 years in.
Yep. So I think that's pretty much about the other countries. And for the people who are watching from India, for India, it is somewhere between $4,000 to $5,000. Sometimes it is also up to the $10,000. If you are, again, as Bradley mentioned, there are people who are able to make $100,000. So like personally, I started with the $100 per month in India. So you can also keep that in mind. And one thing that my teacher used to say me is that beggars are not choosers. So as a freshers, we are definitely beggars and we can't choose. If you are getting a job, just go ahead, grab that opportunity, and then make show them to your value. Then they are definitely going to pay you good amount.
Yeah, that's right. And I think really globally, it's take the first experience you can get that first year of experience, and then things are going to open up for you. Yeah.
Yep. And then the next question is also around the same. So they are saying that okay, we have got this. We have got the offer. Now it's time to talk with the HR, the hiring team, and then how to negotiate the salary and get the best out of.
Yeah, this is an interesting topic for freshers, right, or beginners, or whatever you want to refer to, people with no real world experience yet, on the job. Negotiation is a tricky subject. Now, when you have 5 years experience, you can negotiate because you know your value. Now, here's what I typically tell people. If you already have a job that is paying your bills and you're comfortable with the job that you have, it, and not a Salesforce job, just any job, and you're trying to land a Salesforce role, and they didn't quite offer you what you were expecting, you might be able to negotiate because now you're in a power position and you can afford to lose this opportunity because you already have a job that's paying the bills, right? Now, if you're unemployed and you're not sure where the next paycheck's going to come from, then I would strongly advise accepting the offer that's on the table. You're not in a power position. You're not in a position to be negotiating and potentially losing opportunities because of maybe, 10% or 20% or, something like that. And I know it sounds like a lot in the beginning. It's like, yeah, but I could be getting paid 20% more if I just negotiate. And it's like, you could be getting paid nothing if you negotiate. So let's be a little bit careful here. And the other thing is, if you're getting, 2 or 3 interviews every single week and another offer's coming, or you feel pretty confident another offer's coming, okay, you might negotiate a little bit. But if this is your only interview you've had in the last couple of weeks and you don't have another interview scheduled, probably want to go ahead and take what's standing right in front of you rather than trying to get a few more dollars. And the great thing about Salesforce Careers is that the first job, I honestly, knowing what I know now, I would accept the job basically, as long as I can pay my bills. That's all I care about. Is it could pay me nothing. And I would take the experience knowing that a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I'm going to make more money in a Salesforce career than I ever dreamed I would make in my entire life. So I'm not going to toy around with missing out on that first opportunity. I'm going to take it if I can. I mean, honestly, I would borrow money to do Salesforce, get that first 3 to 6 months of Salesforce experience, because I know the power it has. Once that's on a resume, once you have those skills, the job opportunities just are wide open and you can really take control of your career.
Yeah, I think that's true. In initial of my career, like initial 6 months, I've also borrowed money from my brother to pay my bills and all. And then after everything went okay, and now I'm earning a lot what I'm expected.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And you just have to be willing to put in that, that investment up front. And it emotionally, it cannot, it may not feel good, and you may feel like you're still grinding and putting in the investment to just get started. But just trust that it is well worth that time that you put in to get that first bit of experience. Yeah.
Yep. So I think that was the last question that we have. Any further tips that you wanted to add on from your side to to our viewers?
Yeah, I would just say that if this felt compelling to you, if you feel like, all right, I heard everything they said and I'm trying to quickly take notes and figure out how I'm going to move forward, and you're thinking, okay, I need to do Trailhead to get certified, I need to go on LinkedIn to do my personal branding, I need to get real world experience, and that one guy mentioned a few websites and maybe I should go check those out, and that's what you're sort of going through right now. The great thing is we do have what's called a free 5-day challenge, and you can check that out. And basically it takes everything we talked about in this call, most of the things we talked about in this call, and puts those in a way that you can do about 30 minutes to an hour, 5 days in a row. and you're going to be in a position to take control of all these things. So you don't have to take notes. You can stop taking notes. You don't have to rewatch the video unless you want to. We're happy to have you watch it again. But we've consolidated this down for you into a quick 5-day challenge. So you can knock those things out in your own time. And again, only 30 minutes to an hour a day. You don't have to do them all the same, 5 days in a row. You can take it at your own pace. And we'll make sure to provide a link to that as well.
I think that should be good thing for everyone. Even I'm going to try that 5-day challenge. But I used to try the rule of 21. Do the things continuously for 20 days, and it is going to be a new habit for you.
Yeah.
So I think with that, thank you very much, sir, for giving your time to us. And it was great talking to you. And I think definitely our viewers are going to get help on that.
Excellent.
And
well, thank you. Thank you so much for, allowing me to come on and talk to you guys. And yeah, I'm happy to do it anytime. So just let me know.
Yep, sure. I think definitely we are going to have you for the next talk, which is going to be more in demand, which is for freelancing.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm happy to do it and look forward to it. So yeah, we'll get that on the schedule and knock it out and make sure everybody knows how to get started freelancing.
So when we talk about certifications, most of the time these days, the youngsters are landing into the trap while using the dumps. So what you will say, like either they should go, or what kind of things they should do while preparing their exams so that they don't need to trap into the dumps?
Yeah, that can be difficult. And I will say, if you're not aware, certification dumps are effectively people creating questions and answers from the exams and putting those online or selling those online. So you can just go memorize the questions and answers. And that sounds pretty appealing, especially to someone who's trying to do this in a hurry, or someone who has failed the exam a couple of times and now they're struggling and they just want an easy finish. It can be really appealing to go do that. So the first thing I'll say is you're going to be found out sooner or later. And it's really going to be as much a strain on you internally as a person as it's going to be a strain on the business. So even if you were to land interviews, as soon as you get technical questions, you're likely going to miss those and it's going to be evident. And even if you were to land a job, people are going to see immediately when they start assigning you tasks that you don't actually know what you're doing. And I think really in the back of your mind, I would hate to go into a career, even if you were successful, even if no one ever found you out, I would hate to go into a career knowing that I owe my career to the fact that I cheated and shortcutted and I didn't actually earn any of this. And this was all just something that I know in the back of my mind is because I paid to go around the process and cheated my way forward. So I would just protect, if anything else, I would just be protecting your own mental health and make sure that you're not using these. Now, the reality is some people are, and that's what you're competing against, right? Well, the good news is you're going to have your certification. They're going to have theirs. On paper, it all looks the same, but you're going to be differentiating yourself because you're getting guidance, from myself and SFDC Panther. And so you're going to be making sure that you are always one step ahead, which means your LinkedIn profile, there's no shortcutting networking. There's no shortcutting preparing for interviews. This all has to be done properly. So you're still going to be so far ahead of those individuals because the certification is the only part of the process that they can take a shortcut on. And you're going to fully understand every piece of the process to landing the job, not just the certification.